We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Washington Week in Review. Ben Nuelle here along with Bill Tomson, both filling in for Phil and Spencer this week, but a lot of stuff did happen in Washington. We'll start off on Monday. USDA did announce disaster aid for farmers affected by the hurricanes and the flooding across the Midwest. Later in the week, there was a White House meeting with biofuel producers and oil refineries to figure out something with the renewable fuel standard and small refinery exemptions. And then Thursday, probably somewhat the bigger news of the week, Bill, with USMCA, Lighthizer, Trade Ambassador Robert Lighthizer did send a counteroffer to House Democrats on the agreement. And where do we stand right now, Bill?
Well, House Democrats, who are key in this whole process, left Robert Lighthizer with a list of demands before they went on their August recess. Just earlier this week, Lighthizer delivered a response, a proposal, a counter proposal, if you will, to the House Democrats, which was quickly, at least partially, rejected. A counter proposal was expected to go back to them as early as today. In an effort to smooth things over, we'll see if they can come to an agreement and have a vote on USMCA this year, but it all depends on whether the Trump administration and the House Democrats, especially Nancy Pelosi, can come to an agreement.
And I know Pelosi did talk to reporters yesterday at the Capitol saying that enforcement in the actual document will have to be agreed upon, and didn't really look to thinking any side letters would be agreeable. But can you also explain kind of the process of what has to happen to get this document to the Hill?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right about the side letters. So one of the key things is the Democrats, they want to be able to be certain that Mexico will follow through what they've promised on their labor reform to create real unions in Mexico to drive up wages there, so U.S. companies aren't tempted to send even more factories to Mexico. Now, Mexico has passed legislation. They've promised that they're following through. A lot of the Republicans have said this is good enough. The Democrats say it's not good enough, and they want to make changes in the core text of USMCA. They don't want a side letter tacked onto it. They say this won't have the effect of or the effect of making a change to the core text. The problem with that is people say if you change the core text, if you open it up, that opens it up to other people who want other changes, and to have this drag on for perhaps months more, and then you have to get all three countries to agree on it again.
And also watching USMCA, but also watching with what's going on with negotiations with China. Expected next month, Chinese officials are expected to meet with U.S. officials to talk more about negotiations. What's the latest there, Bill, that you can tell for us?
Well, there's a flurry of activity going on ahead of these talks that are supposed to happen early in October. Neither country will say exactly when. China is supposed to send a delegation here to Washington, and as we speak, they are laying down the groundwork for that meeting to happen. Now, China made some goodwill gestures. The latest one was Donald Trump decided to postpone a tariff increase on $250 billion worth of Chinese goods. A short postponement for just 2 weeks, but to get in preparation for that meeting. Now, in response, we're hearing today that the Chinese have issued their own olive branch saying that they will cut tariffs on U.S. pork and soybeans. The problem is we don't know how big that cut is. Are they going to cut all of the tariffs? For soybeans, that would be great. And pork, it would also be great. But are they just cutting the latest additional tariffs that they added, which is 5 and 10% on top of 50 and 25% respectively, pork and soybeans? Or are they lifting all of the tariffs, which would be great for U.S. exports? We just don't know how big that is, and whether or not these tariff cuts depend on a satisfactory outcome of the talks. All of these things are just still playing out now as we speak.
So it sounds like there's still a lot of back and forth with that as well. But also looking at just what's going to happen next week, we should see some more action from the House Appropriations Committee looking to for a clean resolution here to fund the government after September 30th. They're hoping to avoid a government shutdown, which would take effect October 1st if lawmakers cannot agree on budget discussions. And then in the Senate, Tuesday, the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Agriculture is going to mark up the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Food and Drug Administration, and Related Agencies Appropriations Act for 2020. And then a few of the folks flying into DC next week include the National Corn Growers Association, United Fresh Produce Association, to name a few of those groups. But for Bill Tomson, I'm Ben Nuelle, and thanks for watching this week. Find more news at agripulse.com.